Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to another Studio Ghibli Month review. Today we are reviewing Kiki's Delivery Service. Just like others I have already reviewed, such as Spirited Away, Laputa Castle in the Sky, and so on, Kiki's Delivery Service is one of my favorites. In fact, I'd say it was probably one of my earliest favorites in Studio Ghibli. While Spirited Away is the film that got me interested in the company and their movies, Kiki's Delivery Service is really the one that solidified it for me. And that may be surprising to some people because, unlike other films in the Studio Ghibli library, it's not as exciting. It's not as action packed. It's not as fantastically magical. It's almost kind of ordinary by comparison. But what's it about? So Kiki's Delivery Service centers around, well, Kiki, a young witch going off on her own. And basically the idea behind it is that Kiki discovers this town and decides to kind of live there and make her way. Because witches kind of go off on their own like earlier than we would think like people do. Like when you think of people going off their own, you think, okay, they're 18 years old or older, they're finished with high school, maybe finishing with college or just going to college or whatnot. That's when they go off on their own, right? But with witches, they go off on their own a lot earlier because it's basically at 13 years old. Now, they do come back. It's not like a permanent thing, so that's also a big difference. Because it's basically like a part of their training as witches. At 13 years old, they leave their home for 1 year on the night of the full moon, and it's basically to increase their skills through training on their own. It's a way to basically force them to learn how to handle situations without the help of a mentor figure. And Kiki takes her black cat Gigi and heads off on her own. So she finds this place, this town, and basically the entire movie is just her trying to do stuff on her own. Kiki is voiced beautifully by Kirsten Dunst, and honestly, she's just such a lovable character. She's kind, she's helpful, she's caring, and she's just so cute. Gigi is voiced by the late Phil Hartman, and he has this amazing, sarcastic, dry wit to him that is just perfect for his character. We have other great voice actors. We have Tress MacNeille as Osano, Brad Garrett as Fukuo, Jeff Bennett as Kiki's father Okino, and so many others. A lot of just amazing voice actors, as always with the Studio Ghibli film. So yeah, the movie doesn't really have a lot going for it. It's pretty basic and simple. Kiki's big struggle in this film is learning how to be on her own. Learning how to be on her own and just, like, survive and train and become stronger. She meets Tombo and becomes friends, but she ends up getting very sick at one point in the film and has to kind of recover from it. But things don't really have this big, grand, like, how do I put it? There's not a lot of, like, intense moments to this film. So even when she falls sick, you know everything's going to kind of be alright. That's kind of the only big issue that I really have with Kiki's Delivery Service. There's no real sense of fear when you're watching. You don't, like, fear that anything bad's going to happen to these characters. Even during the big ending climax, you don't really think that anything's going to happen. There's no real... There's a word for it, I just can't think of it. You just don't have any stresses in terms of that. And then there's these other cool characters in it, like I believe Ursula is the name of this like lady who kind of lives on her own in the woods. She's a painter and everything. She's really cool and just awesome. And then there's this one jerky girl in the town who I don't know her name, but she's she's pretty much filling a role. So yeah, the film is just really fun though. Like, outside of all the other Studio Ghibli films, a lot of them being these big fantastical magical experiences, this one just kind of lets you sit back, relax, and just enjoy. It just lets you have fun and go with the flow for once instead of trying to throw you into all this big exciting stuff. It's honestly a lot more relatable too. Like, although of course we know witches aren't really a thing, at least not in this kind of way. We can relate to Kiki in the idea of like going off on your own, doing things for yourself, struggling with just surviving without your parents and whatnot. It's a realistic scenario that a lot of people go through. And Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli in general have always been good with that. I've mentioned this before in other reviews. They are always good at making these kind of relatable stories through fantastical means. Like, you can find so much to relate to through these characters and their what they go through in all of these movies. Yet they're presented in a way that's so magical and fantasy-like that it almost comes across as very subtle, even if it's not necessarily. Like with Kiki's Delivery Service, it's not really subtle in the fact that it's trying to like give a parallel to going off on your own as an adult and being away from your family and everything. It's not even really subtle about it, but because of the way they present it through the idea of witchery and whatnot, it makes it a little more just... They take it away from the surface level, you could say. But I love this film, and I love watching it again and again. Tell me your thoughts, though, on Kiki's Delivery Service in the comments below. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie Royal, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.